In today's video, I'm going to walk around my town and talk about the businesses and the buildings and what I remember they used to be growing up as a child, and simply give a little history of this town and what I know, going off memory and stuff. And behind me is the town's clock. But yeah, that date up there, that 1869, supposedly that's when this town was established. But this here is our local public library. It's been in that location ever since I was born, ever since I can remember anyways. I was born in 1990, so that's always been the location of our local library. And before that, it was actually, I think, Jones's Meat Market, and the building was just basically some stores and stuff before it became a local library. Because where the actual Boston Township Hall is, that actually, before they built that Township Hall near me, that's on the corner of Church and Center there, that actually had another building there years ago that actually housed the local library for a short while, and then later on they moved it in the downtown area. I think it might have been around the maybe 70s or 80s, roughly around that time when they moved this. I don't know when they put this library here, but down through the years they remodeled this library and made it what it is today. But yeah, this video will be useful for those of you who are simply planning on moving to Saranac, or want to visit the area, or just simply like knowing history of small towns, you know, etc., etc. But this right here is our local Dollar General. Then that little space right there is actually just a little substation, pizzeria shop, little restaurant. But that right there is our local Dollar General. And before this became a Dollar General, it actually sat vacant for about 4 to 5 years, I want to say. But before that, this whole building for many years, even including that little restaurant part, was always been a grocery store. When I was growing up as a kid back in the 90s, before that was a Dollar General, it sat vacant for a little bit, and it was a store called Saranac Family Market, they called it, and they sold a brand of food called Roundy's, which Roundy's I think was in competition with the famous Spartan Nash. And then before that, when I was growing up in the 90s, it was called Agate Spartan Store. This whole building was an Agate Spartan Nash store. It was a Spartan store before they became Spartan Nash. And then what happened was the old man that ran this, his last name was Agates. The old man that ran the Spartan store, from what I remember, he just simply got old, retired. He passed the building down in business to somebody else, like a family member or something, I think it was. And then they converted it into a Saranac Family Market grocery store. And then they went out of business for whatever reason, I don't know. They went out of business. The building then sat vacant. Somebody purchased it, leased it out to Dollar General, and then Dollar General moved in. And then, of course, since Dollar General didn't use all the space, they blocked some of it off and created the little Red Tomato. They ended up capping some of the space off and making the little Red Tomato there. And before this Red Tomato came in there, it was for a short while a little kind of like produce meat market little place, and then that went out, and then it became like a little substation, little produce meat market place again. So it's been a few little, where that Red Tomato, a couple different little kind of funny little businesses that just simply they went out for whatever reason, couldn't make a go and had to shut down. And then Red Tomatoes came there. Actually, Red Tomatoes was there once before. Then they moved, and then they, of course, came back to that location. And they have good pizza there. I really like their cheese and pepperoni pizzas there. And I think their prices are fairly good. And they're a small business, so if you like supporting local small businesses, they're a good place to go if you like pizzas and different types of subs and stuff. And I think they even sell those, I don't know what you call them, things like a gyro or whatever, some little stuffed pizza thing or whatever, but... And then this Vacant, this over here is our local car wash. I'll get a little more close here. But that is our local car wash. When I was a kid growing up, ever since the 90s, that's always been a car wash. There used to be another car wash there. They tore that down, and then they rebuilt this one and just, tore down the old car wash and built a new one to keep up with the Joneses, and because the old one was getting really old and junky. So there was a funny old white car wash there when I was growing up as a kid. They tore that down, and then they built this one. And that's also has the regular manual wash bays, and then it also on the one side there has the automatic wash. Then next to the car wash, that little white barn building, that's always for many years when I was growing up as a kid, was always like some kind of, factory type warehouse space and stuff. Now it houses some plumbing, heating, and cooling. At one time, years ago when my dad was growing up, his father worked there back when it was like a chrome plating shop, I guess it was. At one time they used to do chrome plating there way years ago, back in like the 60s and 70s, and my grandpa actually worked there for a short while when my dad was growing up. His father worked there, my grandpa worked there for a short while. So that's, for many years, always been kind of just like warehouse, factory type space and stuff. So yeah, now it's some sort of business that specializes in plumbing and heating and stuff, as you've seen in the picture, judging by what their sign says. Now that over there is one of our many gas stations this town. But that's the local party store gas station. That's one of 3 that we have in this town. And fun fact about that, growing up as a kid, that building, to me anyways, has always been a local gas station for many, many, many years. And I remember when it used to be something called Total, Torco, and it's been a few different style gas stations. Actually, just about, I want to say maybe a year back, that used to be called a Golf gas station, one of those Golfs, but then they changed it to a Sunoco. And one of the, and then way years ago, before I was even born, that building right there actually was like a small engine repair shop. It used to be a funny little repair shop, and the only reason why I know that, because I know somebody that worked there years ago, back when it was a small repair shop, and then that went out, and then somebody bought the property, and then they turned it into a gas station, and it's been a gas station for many years and stuff. So ever since I've been in this town, that's always to me been a gas station and stuff. So then over here, that building called Jetson Tire. That Jetson Tire right there. That years ago was since I can remember, was always a repair shop, fix-it car garage shop for many years. Now it's just a closed up building that somebody uses for storage, and they store, I guess, automotive parts and stuff, and it's just for storage, because I've seen a guy out there that must own the property, and he was always getting parts and stuff. He likes to simply work on automotive vehicles and stuff, and he's always got some sort of vintage car up there, and the person that owns that building, they just simply use it for storing automotive parts and stuff. And they got that thing stacked wall to wall, where parts is one of them where you can tell the person is a hoarder of automotive parts, and makes you wonder, like, how can anybody find anything in that building? But yeah, for many years that was another mechanic's garage. We actually used to have two in this town, and that one went out, and now we just got one. This building right here behind me, this building right here, used to be, before I was born, was actually, I think it was a meat shop business and some other stores down through the years, but I've always remembered it as a laundromat. For many, many years, this building used to be our local laundromat where people could go and do their laundry and stuff and wash their clothes and stuff. I remember as a kid going in here and my parents using the washing machine when we didn't have a washing machine at our house and stuff. And for many years that was a laundromat, and then a few years back they tried to make that an ice cream shop. They made, in the little front part of it where that clothes sign is, they actually tried to make a little ice cream / laundromat, and that kind of just simply went out and stuff. Now it's just a vacant building that somebody tore out all the old washing machines out of it, and now it's just a vacant building that nobody does anything with and stuff. So but yeah, for many years that was a laundromat, as far as I can remember, ever since I was growing up, and I was born in 1990. But right here is a counseling office. I don't know if it's still in business or not, but it was part of the local newspaper here in town. But I remember for many years this whole little green building here was all the local newspaper shop and stuff. But the guy that actually ran that little counseling thing, when I was growing up in middle school, he was actually my school principal. The guy that used to run that as a counseling office, he was actually for many years was a principal at my school and stuff. And I remember in middle school he was the principal. Building here is actually the local newspaper. Matter of fact, there's what our local newspaper looks like. And this is the local printing newspaper shop. This is where if you wanna place an ad in your local newspaper, or you wanna advertise your business and stuff, If I ever wanted to make a Boomhauer 69 ad in the local newspaper, I would go here. But it's called the Ionia County Shopper's Guide, and it's been down for the years. It had a few different names. Like I think they used to call it something like the Advertiser or whatever. It had a few different names before they settled on years ago the Ionia County Shopper's Guide. But ever since the 90s, it's always to me been the Ionia County Shopper's Guide. I know the paper had a few names before the Ionia County Shopper's Guide, and that building, for as far as I can remember, always been the local Shopper's Guide printing company and stuff. And then this right here is a guy that will do your taxes and accounting service and stuff. And for many years, this has always been, since I can remember, always some sort of like office space business and stuff. So it's always been some sort of accounting and business related. And then the upstairs, the building is, I think, used to be apartments and stuff. And so there were some other like kind of little printing before the teacher came, counting business came in there. There was some other sort of like little I think it was called McCarthy's Communication, and I don't know what that business was all about years ago, but it's always been some sort of kind of like office-y space type business. And then this here is our local village government office. This is where you go if you gotta, maybe pay taxes or whatever to them village, or you got a complaint, or you wanna go to the local meetings and see what's up, what new laws have changed and stuff. But that's our local government building, where you simply go to file your complaints with the government if you got a bone to pick with them. Then here is our local post office. This is our local post office where you go to get your mail, do your mailing needs and stuff. If you got business to do with the United States Postal, that's where you go. Fun fact about the government office building here is this building right here, way years ago, before I was even born, back in the 50s and 60s, and actually it was for a short while when my dad was growing up, because my dad was in this town. He was born and raised in this town, and he was born in 1957, but that actually used to be a movie theater. That little red building where Teacher Ma and that actually was at one time a movie theater back in the olden days during the Depression and stuff, where you could go and actually watch a movie. And then, of course, years later that went out, and then they down through the years changed the building. But that was like in the 30s, 40s, and 50s and 60s, way before I was born. And ever since I can remember, this is always that spot has always been the post office since the dawn time. I think the 70s or 80s is when they built that post office. Now, this building here, ever since I was growing up as a kid, it's always been the pizza shop, Gino's Pizza. This is the iconic, everybody that lives in Saranac knows Gino's Pizza. Yeah, if you lived in Saranac all your life and you moved away, one of the things you will be talking about is, when I get back to Saranac, I'm going to get me some Gino's Pizza. That's one of those people who I personally know that left town. One of the things they always say they miss is Gino's Pizza, because he is he's been in this town for years and years and years. His family ran the pizza shop for many, many years. That's where before that Red Tomato opened up, and before any other pizza shop in town, this was your go-to to get pizza and stuff. Pizzas, and they do sell subs and stuff. Then this building here, ever since I can remember, back in the 90s, was always this building right here. I can always remember. It's always been vacant, and nobody really does anything there, but yeah, Gino's is one of those iconic small town little restaurant businesses that everybody that knows Saranac knows Gino's Pizza, and say, man, I gotta come back and get me some of that and stuff. And this right here is a scrapbooking shop and Nash computer service and repair shop. So it's a scrapbooking place where you can get simply arts and craft supplies, stuff you would normally need for when you're doing scrapbooking and stuff, and I think they even got some fabrics and material in there. And that's also a computer repair shop where you can do where they'll repair your computer. I never personally used the computer repair shop. I never tried them, so I don't know how good they are, but when I was a kid growing up, this was always, for a long time, it just sat vacant, and then somebody decided to open up them scrapbooking little place and computer repair shop. And then for many years the upstairs, as far as I know, was always just simply apartments and stuff. But that's what that place is, just where you can buy arts and craft supplies and get your computer work done. And this right behind me here, this Green Ridge Realty, and the Go Red Hawk, that's our town's football team, high school football team. It's called Red Hawks. But this building right here that says Green Ridge Realty, before this was a realty place, and along with this building before it became Des Cakes, these two buildings were part of a fitness factor that went out. I don't know whatever reason, but before it became real estate business and a little food place, these two buildings were part of a fitness factor that went out. And then way years ago in the 90s, when I was a kid growing up, these two buildings right here were a restaurant. It was called Kathy's Kitchen. And then later on, the Kathy lady that ran it, she sold it. And then some other guy bought it and turned it into Kelly's Kitchen Cafe. And then after that, the restaurant had a fire in it. And I think what it was is due to a mouse got inside the walls and chewed some electrical wiring, in which had a fire and it burnt. And then the building was later on sold because the people who ran the restaurant unfortunately could not fix, for whatever reason, I guess couldn't fix the building up, didn't have the money or whatever, but the restaurant went out due to having a fire, and so then they sold it. And then a guy purchased both of these buildings and created a fitness gym place called Fitness Factor, and that was here for quite some time. And then after that, this became a real estate place, and then this building over here was a couple of businesses. But if you're ever in Saranac and you're looking for, real estate business, looking for a property for sale, this is where you go. And the guy who runs it, his name is Ryan Hesse. So if you ever visit Saranac and looking to buy property in the area, whether it's real residential, commercial, whatever, this is where you go. And this right here behind me does cakes. Right here, this bakery. This is a bakery ice cream place, like the sign says. This right here, like I said previously, was part of the restaurant that caught fire, and then they sold the place, and it was part of the Fitness Factor gym place. And then when that went out, this building was for a short while, was a produce store where you could buy fresh produce and fresh meats and stuff. And then that went out, and then this became Fountain Creations for a short while, and then I guess she went out, and then this Des Cakes came in. Now the funny story about that Fountain Creation is the guy that ran that, he used to be a school teacher, and so I think what it is he's kind of, retirement age, and he retired out of school teaching and then opened up the little Fountains Creation, and maybe he just decided, I'll let somebody else run the little bakery. But then this Des Cakes came in. I actually went to school with this lady's sister. Her sister and I were in the same grade, but this lady was even on TV. That's why she has the as seen on TV sign, because she was actually on the Food Network in one of those reality competition shows where they compete for the best food or whatever, and I guess she made some really good cupcakes and stuff. I haven't personally been in this place yet to see what kind of ice cream and baked goods they have and stuff, but this is our local small town bakery where you get your baked goods and stuff. But yeah. Well, I guess that Fountain Creation collection fundraiser business is still intact too, so I guess she still is in business according to the sign on the window. So you learn something new every day. And then the upstairs of that was part of the Fitness Factory gym, and before that I think it was just kind of like apartments and stuff. Then next to the library for as many years, as far as I can remember, this has always been the American Legion. This is our local American where all the veterans and stuff hang out and stuff. Which actually, a fun fact, my grandpa, my mom's father, he was a war veteran. He was in Korea. He served in the Korea War during the 50s. And he was a part of these American Legions and stuff, so that's always, ever since I was a kid growing up in the 90s, that's always been a American Legion place, so I don't know what it used to be before. I'd have to relook at the history books of what it used to be before, but ever since I was growing up as a kid, that's always been a American Legion. Now, this blue building behind me, that's a marijuana shop. Because in Michigan, it is legal now to smoke recreational marijuana, and that blue building is a marijuana shop. And before that, that was actually a little bakery before that. I knew the lady real nicely that used to run it. She ran that as a bakery, and then her bakery went out, and then that little blue building became a pop shop. I'm not going to show that building too much because they got signs up saying, hey, don't be filming and stuff, because that is a recreational marijuana shop and stuff, and they, for security reasons, don't want people taking too many pictures of their business, so that's why I just put little blanks there. But yeah, for that little blue building there, before it was a marijuana shop, it was actually a little bakery, and she even sold some antiques in there and stuff, and real nice little bakery, coffee shop type place. She made good cinnamon rolls. That was one of those things she was well known for. And then that, of course, went out. I think what it is she might have retired or something, and then just went out and sold the building, and now it's a marijuana dispensary and stuff. Because in the state of Michigan, for people who like to do that stuff, personally, I don't care to smoke marijuana, do none of that. But hey, if you want to do that stuff, that's all on you. But it is legal in the state of Michigan to smoke recreational marijuana, hemp, if you want to. Now this building right behind me right here, this is the Vicky's Bridge Street Pasty Shop. If you don't know what a pasty is, it's just basically like a chicken pot pie, like a chicken pot pie. It's basically just has a bread shell type crust and a bunch of meat and stuff and potatoes on the inside of the pasties. But this has been here for quite a few years now. Before this was a pastry shop, it was at one time somebody tried to open up their own little like mom and pop dollar store, and then before that it was a little ice cream shop called Soft Serve. There was a guy out on the corner here that ran for quite a few years an ice cream shop on the corner of 21 and Morrison Lake, and then he decided to move in town to try to run his ice cream shop. And then when I was a kid growing up in the 90s, this building right here was actually the pharmacy before they moved over across the road. For many years, this was actually, when I was growing up as a kid for quite a few years, was the Hinckley's Good Neighbor Pharmacy Drugstore, pharmacy store where you could get all your pharmaceuticals, and that was back in the 90s. And so this place, there's been a few different businesses. It was somebody tried to run an ice cream shop, like I said before, a mom and pop style dollar store, and then I think that's about it on all the businesses it was. But way back in the 90s when I was a little kid and my mother was alive, she would she would come down here back in the 90s to get her diabetic supplies at the local drugstore. And then later on, what happened was just the drugstore moved out of that location and moved across the road onto the actual corner and turned that into a pharmacy store because there was obviously more room and stuff. And this building you see right behind me here, there's Three's Crown Academy Place. This right here has always been multiple different type of business. At one time, I can't remember what it was when I was growing up as a kid, but at one time somebody tried an antique shop here. They tried an antique shop because I remember going in there a few times, and then that went out. I remember as a kid in middle school, it was counseling office for like therapy and stuff, where if you needed to talk to a counselor or somebody to talk to and stuff, it was that for a short while. Because I actually, when I was in that would be in elementary school when that was. Because when I was in elementary school, we had a school counselor that worked here as one of the counselors and stuff. And then that went out, and then it was for a few years an antique shop. And then where Des Cakes was, that at one time was a produce farm store, and then they moved out of here, and then they moved into here and tried their produce farm store, but then they went out, and now it's Three's Crown Academy community music school thing, and then it's also some River Edge Youth Center as well. So I don't know, I imagine upstairs some youth center. What the heck? And this place right here called VIP Salon, that is just basically a place where women get their hair done and stuff and get their hairdos and things. And this used to be part of the hardware store back in the day. So used to be part of the local hardware store behind me, but then they, I guess, downsized, and then they rented us out. And when I was a kid in middle school, this VIP Salon building was actually a youth center, and then the youth center went out for whatever reason, I don't know. The youth center went out, and then it sat vacant for a while, and then somebody opened it up as a beauty salon place where you get your hair done and stuff. Growing up as a kid in the 90s, here is the local hardware store, and always, ever since I grew up as a kid, and this has always been the local hardware store for many years. That's why they call it Saranac Hardware, but that's been for many, many years. Ever since I was growing up, the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, even in the 60s, 50s, I think ever since this building was first built, I think its whole life it's always been the local hardware store and stuff. So yeah, this building, ever since I can remember, even back when my dad was growing up as a kid, always been the local hardware store where you can get your hardware needs and stuff, and they even sell certain brands of chainsaws, as you can see and stuff. And he's a really nice guy. I've been in there many times needing something and never had a problem with getting what I need and stuff. Well, that building right there that I'm pointing at, that dark brown building, that's just a medical doctor's office. It's been a medical doctor's office for many, many years and stuff. It's just, they always been the local family doctor's office. It used to be part of the Spectrum Health. Now I notice it's now part of Sparrow, the Sparrow Rural Hospital Health Center stuff. But yeah, that building right there, one of my fingers point, that's just been for many, many years just your typical old family doctor. I actually went there a few times to get physicals and certain things back when I attended a trade school and stuff, and I had to get a few updates of shots and stuff. But that's where you go if you're not feeling too well, or you need to update some shots and stuff. You go there and get your medical. And then behind me, this building right here that says Saranac Tank, that for many years has always been, since I was a kid, a actual just like factory type stuff. It used to be called Saranac Tank and Coating, and they used to do just kind of basically factory type work and stuff. And then way years ago, this was back before I was even born, and back when my grandpa was during the Great Depression days. That used to be part of the creamery that my local town used to have way years ago for the farmers and stuff around. It used to be part of the dairy creamery this town used to have. And now that building is actually no longer Saranac Tank. What it is somebody has purchased that property because it sat vacant for a little bit and was up for sale. I don't know what happened to Saranac Tank. I always called it Saranac Tank and Coating. I don't know what happened to that business and why it went out, but somebody else has purchased that business, that building and property, and now they're going to be turning that into a camper RV parts repair place, I guess, where you can go and buy like your camper parts and stuff for your RV campers and stuff, which personally I think is a good thing, because sometime in the near future when I got the money to do tiny house builds, I'll be probably paying them a visit and seeing what they got that would help me towards tiny house building and stuff. So yeah, that's going to be a future RV camper type store and repair shop type place where people around can go get their RVs, campers, and motorhomes and stuff worked on. So if you're somebody that travels to Saranac, Michigan, and you break down, you got an RV, camper, whatever, motorhome, and break down, and you need a person that specializes in camper RV repair, they would be the place to check out. I don't know what they're gonna call it. I forget. But yeah, that's now gonna be in a camper place. And this building right here that says 5 East Main Building was, when I was growing up as a kid, was called Steve's Meter. That used to be the electrician used to run that as electrical, where you could get your electrical needs. If you're an electrician, used to run that, and he called it Steve's Meter. He used to work on meters and stuff, from my understanding. And then that blue building, that's some sort of office building now, I guess, like medical, health, whatever. That, when I was a kid growing up, an old man used to run that as a pool hall. It was called Daryl's Pool Hall, and that used to be where people would go to play pool and have a meal or whatever the case may be. Me used to be able to go there and play pool. But what happened is, the old man that ran that Daryl, I think he either passed away or him and his wife just simply retired. I think him and his wife passed away, or they just simply retired from old age and got out of the business. But I think what might have happened is, after he passed away, then the family sold off the building, and then they turned it into office space and after that. But for many years, that little blue section was actually the local pool hall where you could play pool and have a meal and stuff, and was pretty well known in this area and stuff. And we have over here the Saranac Chiropractics, and next to that, and that for many years has always been a chiropractic back doctor place and stuff. For many years, that's always been that. been some sort of medical since I can remember. Next to it used to be called Germain. Now it's split up, but years ago when I was growing up as a kid, that was a bar and restaurant called Germain's. And then Germain's went out, and then somebody tried to run it as a restaurant, and then the restaurant closed up, and now it's just for sale lease. And ever since I was growing up as a kid, that's always been a restaurant since I can remember. Now I don't know what it used to be back in the olden days, but ever since I was a kid growing up, that's always been some sort of restaurant. And it was always for years called Germain's, and then Germain's went out for whatever reason, and then somebody ran another little restaurant in there. They used to, I think, call it like Season of Saranac, I think it was called, and stuff. And so that went out. And this building right here that says Paul the Barber Shop, that's right there's where I get my haircuts. That's been in this town for years and years, and that's always been Paul the Barber Shop. That the guy that owned that, Paul the Barber, his name was actually Paul. He, for many years in Saranac, ever since my dad was growing up, ever since my grandpa was growing up, he was one of them old boys that he cut generations and generations of hair. He cut my hair, my dad's hair, my grandpa's hair, and he cut generations of hair. And then what happened is he just simply got old and retired, and then he let his I think grandkids take it over, the children and stuff. And to this day it's still family run, where his granddaughter Allison still cuts hair. He also had a grandson named Tucker that also used to cut hair there, but Tucker, he unfortunately he passed away a few years back, and he no longer, he passed away, and so his sister Allison still works there, and she still runs it as a barber shop / beauty salon place. But for many years, that's where Boomhauer, and to this day, where Boomhauer 69 goes and gets his haircut. And it's definitely one of the best barbershops around. I haven't gone anywhere else. The only other person that ever cut my hair was when I was a kid growing up, and my mother did it. And that gray building right behind me there, way years ago, that was a funny brown building, and it was a sandwich sub shop where a guy made and sold sub sandwiches and stuff. And for whatever reason, it went out of business, been sitting vacant, and somebody's been fixing it up. I don't know if anything's gonna go in there, but when I was growing up as a kid, it was always a sub shop. And then for a while, I think somebody had a business in there. I can't remember what it is, but right now it's been vacant, and I think somebody bought it and they've been fixing it up and stuff. And it used to be all brown, just an old brown wood building, and years ago, growing up as a kid in the 90s, that was a sub shop where a guy sold subs and stuff. And so, yeah, that place is now vacant. Now on the other side of this building right here, on the other side of the main drag in town here, this is a medical place where they do counseling or whatever. And before that building there, with that pastry shop, back when that was a pharmacy, way years ago when I was growing up, and I was telling you about that was pharmacy. The Hinckley's Good Neighbor Pharmacy, once they got out of that building, they actually moved to this building right here, this blue building behind me. That's now a medical thing. And that place was for many years a pharmacy. And then before that was the famous, everybody knows it, that been in Saranac since the dawn of time, that actually used to be what they call Larry's Dime Store. That was actually way years ago, and for a short while when I was a kid, called Larry's Five and Dime Store, where you could buy all kinds of stuff. I remember as a kid when I would go get my eyes checked out at an eye doctor, and you know how they would dilate your eyes and stuff. As a little kid, I remember going in there getting cheap little sunglasses to cover my eyes after my eyes were dilated and stuff. But yeah, that blue building there for many years was Larry's Five and Dime Store. It was the dime store back when my dad was growing up in the later 50s, 60s, 70s, and then Larry, I think Larry officially retired or passed away, and it went out. Then Hinckley's Drugstore purchased the building, and they made it into the drugstore pharmacy place, because there was more room for them. And then what happened was this Hinckley's Drugstore went out of business because they couldn't keep up with the Walmart. The next town over, Ionia, they ended up building a Walmart there, and they couldn't keep up with Walmart's pharmacy prices, and so that drugstore went out, sat vacant for a while, and then it just became medical stuff ever since then. And this right here behind me is the Social House restaurant. And before it was Social House, it was called a bar and restaurant called Joe's Place since the 80s. And the owner of the place was called Joe, and so he named it Joe's Place before it became Social House. And what happened is, the owner Joe, he passed away. The family sold the business to this Social House, which they own multiple. They own a few other locations of restaurants, and from my understanding is the people that run this Social House, they lived in Saranac for quite a few years, and when they heard that Joe's Place went up for sale, they decided to purchase it and open up like another location of Social House. But yeah, for many years this was always Joe's Place until the owner passed away, and then the family sold it, and now it's a new bar and restaurant called Social House. And before Joe owned it, because Joe purchased this building back in the 80s, and is when he opened up his bar and restaurant. Before that, it was also a bar and restaurant. So for I don't know how many years in Saranac, this building's always been a bar and restaurant type establishment. And then this right here is another barber shop. This is the Buck's Men's Shop. This is another. I've actually went into that barber a few times. I prefer to go to Paul the Barber Shop because I've always went there for many years, and that's always been my go-to barber shop. But when I need another haircut and Paul the Barber Shop ain't open for some reason, or they can't get to me and I really need a haircut, I will go to this guy. And for many years, this was always a barber shop. I remember before this guy took it over, it used to be called Bill the Barber Shop. And then Bill, I think, retired, and then this guy took it over and it's been a barber shop. And then way before that, way years ago, hundreds of years ago, this was even at one time a funny little newspaper printing shop where they used to print the local newspaper way years ago. That was like during the Great Depression and back when my grandpa was a kid, because I have generations of family that lived in this town for many years, and when my grandpa was a kid during the Great Depression, that little barber shop place used to be like an advertisement place. And then later on it was also a shoe shop. I think when my dad was growing up, this building right here was actually a shoe shop where you get your shoes repaired and stuff back in the day. Before, nowadays people don't get their shoes repaired, they just mostly throw them in the trash and buy a new pair. But back when you could actually get your shoes repaired, this is where you would go to get your shoes repaired. And then later on it just became a barber shop. But ever since I growed up as a kid in the 90s, this has always been some sort of barber shop and stuff. And then this right here is a bait and tackle shop. This has been for quite a few years now, a bait and tackle shop. Now, when I was growing up as a kid in the 90s, back when people would rent movies and stuff, this used to be in what they call an express video rental store. Back in the days when VHS tapes were a thing. As a kid, we'd go down here and rent movies and stuff. You know, back when you actually went to a store to rent movies. Now people just use Netflix, Hulu, and all those back before streaming service was a thing. This is where you would rent your VHSs and DVDs and stuff. And that used to be a video rental store called Express Videos. And then way years ago, before I was even born, the upstairs of that, way years ago, before I was even born, was actually a doctor's office where some doctor did medical stuff. And now, ever since I was a kid, that bait and tackle shop was actually, this building right here was actually a video rental store. But for now, it's a bait and tackle shop. I've only been in there a few times. I haven't really seen what's all it about and stuff. I've only been in there a few times, but I've heard the guy is a really nice person that runs that. But this is a dental place, dental. This is like a children's, I think they just do children. It's a dental clinic where you get your teeth worked on and stuff. Like a family dentistry and stuff. But before this building was here, there was actually another building here that they actually tore down. And the old building that was there was actually a ladies' beauty salon. There was a beauty salon building there where they did ladies' hair, and it was a beauty salon parlor. And that was actually, we took and torn down, and then they built the dentist's office there. Because for many years when I was growing up as a kid, that wasn't a dentist's office, that was actually a beauty salon shop place. And then right here, this vacant grassy area. Right here, this grassy area. Yeah, they're doing some work over at the gas station, but this little grassy area right here used to have a little medical building when I was growing up. It was actually a little medical building growing up. There used to be a little building there, and it was like a medical office when I was a kid growing up. This town had 2 little medical facilities. And then before that building, they tore it down because it was just too old and had asbestos mold and like old buildings, and so they had to tear it down. Now it's just a vacant lot. But that building that used to be here, that was actually a bank before it was a medical place. When my dad was growing up, this little vacant land was where you went to the bank. It was called First Security Bank or First National Security Bank. It was for many years. There's some Facebook pages that people started about the town's history. We have Saranac, and there's pictures of it and stuff of what the building used to look like. And it was a bank. For many years it was a bank. I think over 100 years it was a bank, and then the bank ended up moving behind it. They ended up moving the bank, and then it became like a medical facility place. And then they just finally, I'd say about 10 years back or so, they just bulldozed the building in because it wasn't worth saving. Now, fun fact about the Saranac Library, they down through the years they added onto it, but with the one little section where that lift is, that was actually that little building there wasn't even part of the library, and was actually a beauty salon. There was a lady called Shirley Stiles or whatever, and so for many years growing up in the 90s, that one little section was actually a beauty salon. And then she sold that building to the library, and then the library purchased it and to make a bigger library, so it's now all one building and stuff. And of course that Des Cakes, they're painting that building up nicely and stuff. And so yeah, that was the place that for that Realty and that Des Cakes, that was originally the go-to town's restaurant called Kathy's Kitchen, and then it was later on called Kelly's Kitchen Cafe, like I said before and stuff. So, but yeah, that's now, of course, Des Cakes and stuff, and she was even on the Food Network. I think was part of some competition they had on there. One was competing food shows, and she made cupcakes. And then this right here, for many, many years, the Speedway gas station on the corner here. Always been a gas station ever since I was born and raised in this hick town. It used to be, when I was growing up, called Crystal Flash Gas Station. And then way before that, it was Sam's Service Station. There was a guy named Sam Lombardo that ran a service station. He actually at one time ran 2 service stations, and then he ended up just closing down the one and moving to this location. And for many years, he ran a service station there. I have a book about the town's history that has pictures of what Sam's service station is, and on the corner there, a guy named Sam Lombardo, who was a mechanic shop guy, he ran that for many years as a gas station. And then when he moved over to Lowell, the next town over, and opened up a mechanics garage there, and just stayed in the mechanical business. And then when I was growing up, that was called Crystal Flash. And then in like the, I want to say early 2000s, Speedway company bought that, and then they turned it into a Speedway gas station. But before that, it was Crystal Flash gas station. And then before that, before I was born, back when my dad was growing up, it was a full service gas station fix-it garage called, I think they just called it Sam's Service Station or whatever. Then over here is the local mechanics garage, Real Pro Auto. That's the only service station we have. And that is a really good mechanics garage. I use them all the time to get my cars serviced on and stuff. They're really good mechanics. Ever since I was growing up as a kid, that's always been a garage. Actually, that I think that Sam Lombardo that I was talking about that ran the gas station around the corner, he I think was the one that originally built this and ran it as a full service station, and then he moved over to the Lowell area and ran his mechanics garage there. But I think he was the one that originally built that garage and stuff, and then moved over to Lowell. Then he sold it, and then somebody else bought it, and then they ran it as a mechanics garage. Then it sat vacant, I know, for a little while. And then this Real Pro, it used to be called Scotty's Auto, came to town. This guy named Scotty, he bought it and opened it up as an auto mechanics garage. And then he got out, and now they call it Real Pro. Actually, the Real Pro Auto Shop, they actually have a couple different locations in like the Grand Rapids area, but they're a great mechanics garage. I've used them a lot. So if you're ever wondering what does Boomhauer 69 use as a mechanics garage, this is the place I go to get my vehicles and cars serviced on. Behind me right here is the Independent Bank. This is the local bank right here. On that vacant land I showed you, when the bank, what happened is years ago the bank moved out of that location, and then they moved here, and this, since I've been a kid, has always been a bank. So what happened was just the bank ended up moving into this location after they moved to the other location. So where that vacant land is, I showed you, and I said used to be a medical place and a bank. When the bank got out of there, they moved here, and then it became Independent Bank. Always been an independent bank since I was a kid growing up and stuff. So, well, yeah. hundreds of years. Always been this place has always been a bank since I can remember, since the dawn of time. Fun fact here, when the bank decided to move here, this parking lot actually had a house there, and they buried it in the ground. When the bank decided they purchased this land, originally had a house on it, they built the parking lot for the bank, and they buried the house in the ground. So right now, underneath that, there was a house there, but they bought the land, tore down the house, buried it, and then built the parking lot there. And the only reason why I know that is because I had a substitute teacher when I was in school that used to live in that house, and he actually sold the land to the bank to build a parking lot there. So that's how I know that used to be a house there years ago. I never got to see it because it was before my time and everything. My dad probably seen it when he was alive and grown up, but yeah, that bank parking lot used to have a house there, and then the bank ended up purchasing the land, tearing down the house, and building a parking lot there. But yeah. And this building right behind me is our local fire station. This is the always, ever since I was a kid growing up, was the Saranac Fire Department fire station and stuff. And always been that since I was growing up. Way years ago, before they built the government building over there, the local village office, I should say. This was the village office / fire station, and then to give the fire department more room and stuff, they moved the village office across the road over to the one building that's now the village office, this and stuff. But ever since I was growing up as a kid, this has always been the local fire barn fire station. And before that, it was part of the actual Sam's service station and gas station. Back when my dad was growing up, this was part of our service station, and they used to have a little like snack stand called Sarah Snack or whatever, a little snack station before this was all a fire department. This was part of the service station way years ago when my dad was growing up back in the 50s and stuff. And then next to it, they had a little Sarah Snack service station. And then I think it was sometime in the 80s or 70s, the town bought this land and converted it into the fire station and village office. And then the village office, like I said, moved over there where my finger's at in that gray car, moved across the road. So for many, many years since I was a kid, this has always been our local fire station, fire department and stuff. Then this right here is what they call the Trailhead place. They just call it the Trailhead Covered Pavilion. All it is just simply just some restrooms. They have restrooms, drinking fountains, and simply a covered pavilion with picnic tables where you can sit and rest. This is actually, this right here, actually is part of the nature trail we have that I've done videos about numerous times on my YouTube channel, on Boomhauer69's YouTube channel. But this right here is all simply just nature trail where people can, if they're on the nature trail, you know, traveling from town to town, they can, or they just simply want to have a picnic with their families, they can simply come here, sit down, have a picnic, use the restroom, grab a drink of water, whatever the case may be. And then on certain nights, like towards the weekend, on Friday nights, under this covered pavilion, they'll have live music like most towns in my area started doing a few years ago. So they have a little live band and sometimes do music here on, like, I think Fridays or Saturday nights. They have some little events underneath this little covered pavilion, like live music. I think one night they had for the ladies, they played a movie, Dirty Dancing, with Patrick Swayze and stuff. So that's all just simply my little picnic area and rest area, basically. And it's in part with the nature trail there as well. And then I'll quick show you this over here. And this is where you can simply park your bicycle and service your bike if you want to. They have a bike pump here where you can simply, if you need to, work on your bicycle. You know, if you're riding your bicycle, you get a flat tire and you want to replace the tube and stuff, they got right here a pump where you can pump up your tire and stuff. So that's a little bike service station if you need to service your bicycle or whatever. Now this here is our boat launch, our public boat launch, where you can launch your boat onto the Grand River, where there's parking where you can park your car when you're ready to get on your boat and stuff. So this here is where you go for when you want to do some boating and stuff. You know, you want to launch your boat onto the Grand River to do fishing or whatever, you know, or you just want to cruise down the river or kayak, whatever. This is where you go. Then over there, that little building over there, I'll zoom in on it. But that little building is just the fire department's training. That little building is where the local fire department does or brushes up on their firefighter training skills and stuff, and practice, you know, pretend firefighter stuff, whatever, and training. It's just a training building for the local firefighter department. But yeah, this here is our local boat launch stuff where you launch your boat and stuff. But yeah, here's the parking where you can park your vehicles and stuff. Then we have some benches if you just like to sit and kind of enjoy the scenery. You know, if you're one of those people that like getting attacked by mosquitoes because you forgot to bring your deep woods off, or your thermarest, whatever, the little mini, like, butane clicky mosquito killer thingies. What do they call them? Thermacell, I forget what they call those little things, but yeah, this is where you can launch a boat. They also have a little pier where you can fish off of it, right here. This is where you can fish off the little pier and stuff. Then there's where you actually launch your boat, and stuff. We had some rain, so the river's a little bit up there, so. Well, yeah, that green sign, I don't know if you'll be able to make it out. Zoom in on it. But that green sign on the bridge is just all the boaters know what town they're in. So if you're on the Grand River and you're wondering what town you're in, it just says, "Welcome to Saranac," basically. That's all it says. Then we got some nice little shade trees down here. Some bushes and stuff, a nice little shady spot. So if you want to have a picnic, and nice little shady spot here. Then over here, I noticed something new that I didn't know was even existed. They have one of them little charcoal grills here, so. Right here, which I actually didn't realize this was here, so if you're somebody riding the nature trail or bicycling through town, and you want a place to stop to do some grilling, well, if you got yourself a bag of charcoal, or over there's looks like some down trees or whatever. Maybe you can get some sticks and twigs and set you up a lovely little fire there, be able to set you up a lovely little campfire there and stuff. Now, they do have a sign that says no overnight camping or open fire, so it looks like they only got one of those charcoal grills. So, but if you're somebody roaming into town and you're on a bicycle, one of those people that likes to bike for a few days on nature trails and stuff. We also have a handicapped parking, but so if you're one of those people, likes to travel on a bicycle long distances and you want to stop and take a rest, and they got a little charcoal grill there. We have a Dollar General in town like I showed, so you can get all your charcoal and cooking supplies there, and now you got a public place to have a little fire and roast you some hot dogs or burgers or whatever, to fill your stomach up and get you back on the road, which I didn't realize we had that, so that's something new. And then we got plenty of benches, and then up here on the trailhead covered pavilion there, we have a bunch of picnic tables, so it's kind of a win-win there. What I would suggest doing, if you're going to use that little charcoal grill, what I would suggest doing, maybe have one of those water bags that you can use to fetch water, or some sort of bucket, scoop you up some water just in case you have a little accident or your fire, to put your fire out when you're all said and done and stuff. Have a way to fetch you some water, so after you're done using that, you can safely pour it out and stuff. But yeah, but this right here is just simply our the boat launch area, where the public boat launch area, where you just simply launch your boat onto the Grand River. That river is called the Grand River. And then, of course, there's also up here on the trailhead parking for the nature trail and stuff for the people who like to walk the local nature trail and ride their bicycles or whatever. And this place right here is where you come to learn about the town's history and all the lovely stuff. This is owned and operated by the Saranac Historical Society, and this is the Village of Saranac's little museum train depot place. And before this became a museum, the actual Grand Trunk Railway Company owned this, and this used to be, for hundreds of years, the actual train depot. That's what this used to be the train depot. The Historical Society, the Saranac Historical Society, they bought the train depot from the railway company and converted it into a museum. It wasn't never originally here. This location is like the second location there, where we have our local park, from my understanding, our local children's park with the playground and baseball diamonds and stuff. It originally sat there when the railway company owned it and operated it as a passenger railway system and stuff, and operated as a train depot. Well, and then the Historical Society had this building moved to this location. Now, when I was a little toddler, this land right here was at one time a farmer's elevator grain mill place, where the farmers would come and sell their grain and stuff. And what happened was that farmer's grain elevator that used to be here, the person that ran it, he went bankrupt, from my understanding. He got one of those people that took out too many loans and ended up having to close up his business. And then the Historical Society bought this land and just turned it into a museum. We actually have a nice little area where you can sit and have a picnic and stuff, and and there's plenty of parking. During our town's festival, they always have this open, and under this covered pavilion, they'll sometimes have music and stuff and different things. And what a lot of people do is they'll also use this as parking, and then they'll either have a picnic here underneath the covered pavilion, or they'll simply walk the nature trail, our little nature trail, or go fishing on the river, whatever. And so people, when the depot museum is not open, people will park here and use it as like overflow parking for walking the nature trail or having a picnic, fishing, whatever. So this is where you would come to learn about, when it's open, learn about the town's history and everything and stuff. The people that run it are awesome people. I've actually known and met some of the people that are part of the historical society. They do an awesome job of displaying what they have and stuff. Since this is kind of a smaller building, they told me right out in the past that they actually have a lot of stuff in storage, but they just ain't got the room to really display a lot of the stuff. So what they do is every year when our town has a festival, or whenever they have events here at the depot, which they always this sign right here is where they display when the depot is open and stuff, the museum and everything. And since they got so much stuff and not enough room, I think they do from time to time is they'll change out stuff and pull stuff they haven't showed in a while yet and stuff. So definitely worth checking out when it's open and stuff. And on the actual Bridge Fest, the day of Bridge Fest, they will have that open for people to check out and see the town's history and different things. So that's our local train depot museum. And when you come into our town on the main drag, which this road right here they call Morrison Lake Bridge Street. When you're in town, they call it Bridge Street, but when you leave the village limits, it's called Morrison Lake. You will definitely see this sign welcoming you to Saranac, giving a little bit of history of the town and stuff. And so, yeah. And I'm just doing this video for those of you who like to know history of small towns and you like watching small town videos. And for those of you who stumble upon this video and planning to move to this area, you know, for those of you who are planning to move to this area and maybe you're thinking about buying a house in Saranac or whatever, you know, just for those of you and those sort of people and stuff. And again, for the people who just like to watch videos about small towns, and maybe for those of you who like to know small towns in Michigan, you know, because you like Michigan's history and stuff. So if you like this sort of content, give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, or a thumbs down if you didn't like it. Comment your thoughts below, and don't forget to share this video with everybody you know, because that's going to help me, Boomhauer69, and to be able to do more of this type of content and stuff. And feel free to comment your thoughts below, or just simply want to say hi, you know. Or maybe you thought I should have aimed the camera a certain way or whatever, you know. You're a professional camera photographer person and you got some pointers you'd like to give me. Feel free to shoot them in the comment section below, because I'm a beginner at camera stuff. So thank you for watching Boomhauer69's channel. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button as well, because that's going to help me, Boomhauer69, out. And just want to say thank you for watching.